Most people spend their entire lives trying to prove they have money, and ironically, that's exactly why they never manage to build real wealth. Meanwhile, the people who actually accumulate fortunes are usually the ones no one notices. They don't draw attention, they don't show off, and they're often underestimated. But it's precisely this discretion that allows their wealth to grow quietly in the background. And here's the core idea of this video. There's a powerful strategy used by silent millionaires that can completely transform your relationship with money. A simple yet highly effective philosophy: look poor, be rich. Today, you're going to understand how this mindset works and why it's one of the smartest ways to escape the rat race and speed up your wealth-building journey. We live in an era where looking successful has become more important than actually being successful. The social pressure to display status is so strong that many people feel forced to buy things they don't need, with money they don't have, to impress people they barely know. And even though this behavior is common, it's one of the biggest financial traps of modern life. It's easy to fall into this mindset. You see friends posting expensive trips, new cars, luxury restaurants, and suddenly it feels like everyone is living better than you. But that's the great illusion of visible wealth. It may look glamorous on the surface, but it's often built on debt, payments, and financial insecurity. The problem is that while most people spend to maintain an image, few realize the real cost of that game. Every purchase made to keep up appearances redirects money that could be invested, multiplied, and turned into future freedom. And that's how so many people work hard month after month, yet never build real wealth, because they're stuck in the endless need to prove something. This is the starting point for understanding why silent millionaires do the complete opposite. Showing off doesn't come from abundance, it comes from a need for validation. When someone feels the urge to display wealth, they're usually trying to prove their worth, not to themselves, but to others. This silent need for recognition creates a dangerous emotional cycle. The more you try to impress, the more dependent you become on other people's approval. And that dependence turns your financial decisions into impulsive reactions driven by emotion, not strategy. The human brain loves instant rewards. Buying something flashy releases dopamine, gets quick compliments, and gives a temporary sense of success. But the invisible cost is high. You sacrifice your future to feed a momentary feeling. This psychological trap is what keeps so many people stuck in overspending and prevents them from building real wealth. And once you understand this psychology, you begin to see why truly wealthy people choose a completely different path. Once you understand that real wealth rarely looks like the Instagram version of success, a natural question appears: why do truly rich people make a point of looking poor? And the answer is simple: it's strategy. People who build real wealth know something most people ignore. Every dollar they don't spend trying to look rich is a dollar that can be invested and multiplied. They understand that money is a tool, not a trophy. And the moment you start using money to impress people, you lose the one thing wealth depends on: control. That's why the invisible rich drive older cars, live in comfortable but modest homes, and avoid unnecessary upgrades. It's not because they can't afford more, it's because they know exactly what those upgrades cost over a lifetime. They think in decades, not weekends. But there's another reason even more powerful: privacy. The quieter your wealth, the safer you are. No envy, no pressure, no begging, no expectations to maintain an image, no lifestyle trap that forces you to keep spending just to keep up. Staying invisible protects your peace and your wallet. Millionaires who stay invisible do it to preserve freedom, not to hide from success. They want a life where they own their time, make decisions without fear, and build wealth without performing for anyone. Looking poor has nothing to do with deprivation or minimalism. It's about having the discipline to drown out the noise and the wisdom to focus on what truly matters: financial independence. When wealthy people choose to look poor, they're not just avoiding unnecessary expenses. They're unlocking a series of advantages most people never notice. And once you understand these advantages, the entire strategy suddenly makes perfect sense. First, there's the freedom to live without pressure. When people think you're doing fine, but not rich, they leave you alone. No loan requests, no expectations to cover the bill, no weird business proposals. You move quietly without attracting attention or envy, something money can't buy. Second, there's the ability to negotiate better. If you walk into a dealership looking wealthy, prices magically go up. If you look modest, deals get better. The same applies to contractors, services, and even opportunities. People give their best prices to those who seem financially average, not to those who look like walking ATMs. Third, there's protection against lifestyle creep. If you don't project luxury, you don't have to maintain luxury. No constant upgrades, no pressure to match the expectations you created. You spend less, save more, and invest the difference, quietly compounding your way to wealth. And finally, there's the most underrated advantage of all. You stay grounded. When you don't depend on money to inflate your ego, your decisions naturally improve. You stay focused, disciplined, humble. And humility, combined with consistency, is one of the most powerful wealth-building engines on the planet. Invisible wealth isn't just safer, it's smarter. And once you see the hidden advantages of staying financially invisible, another question naturally comes up. If they're not spending money to look rich, where are they putting it? The answer is simple and completely different from what most people imagine. Silent millionaires put their money into things that grow, not things that show. First, they invest heavily in assets that generate real returns. Stocks, ETFs, REITs, index funds, vehicles that produce dividends, appreciation, and compound interest. They know that every dollar invested today is a soldier working 24/7 to build more wealth tomorrow. Then there's strategic real estate. Not mansions to impress, but properties that generate income. Rental apartments, small houses, commercial spaces, land poised to appreciate. Each asset adds another layer of financial stability, all without drawing attention. They also invest in businesses, because nothing scales income faster than ownership. That might mean their own company, equity in startups, franchises, or even small local businesses. The goal is simple: multiple streams of income that keep flowing even when they're not working. And finally, a crucial portion goes to reserves, protection, and continuous education. Invisible millionaires know the wealth game is long, and to win it, you must stay prepared. Having cash, having protection, and constantly learning keeps the machine running even in the worst scenarios. While many people spend money trying to prove they're wealthy, silent millionaires build wealth so they never have to prove anything again. If in the previous chapter you learned where invisible millionaires put their money, now it's time to understand why it works so fast and why this strategy outperforms any attempt at showing off. Everything starts with a simple yet powerful equation. Wealth produces investment, investment produces more wealth, and that cycle never stops. Here's the contrast. When someone spends money to look rich, that money dies right there. A new car, designer clothes, the latest electronics, all of it loses value the second you buy it. But when an invisible millionaire directs that same money into assets, they're fueling an exponential cycle. One investment generates dividends. Those dividends buy more assets. Those assets generate more returns, and those returns create a snowball effect that grows even while the person is sleeping. It's pure math combined with emotional discipline. And you know what makes this cycle even stronger? The complete absence of social pressure. When you don't have to prove anything to anyone, you don't have to compete with neighbors or chase trends that drain your wealth. Every dollar has a purpose, and that purpose is multiplication. Over time, this quiet math creates something visible wealth can never offer: real freedom. The freedom to choose how you live, where you work, what you prioritize, and most importantly, the freedom to never depend on anyone's approval. And here's the part almost no one talks about, but it completely changes how you view visible wealth. If the cycle of discretion creates freedom, the cycle of showing off creates problems, a lot of them. Because whenever someone tries to look rich, they inevitably attract three things that drain time, energy, and money. 1. Envy. When you display wealth, even unintentionally, you trigger negative feelings in people who don't have the same. It creates silent tension, judgment, comparison, and even hostility. Showing off rarely inspires, it almost always provokes resentment. 2. Requests and expectations. People who look wealthy become targets. Requests for help, loans, shady partnerships, expensive invitations, family pressure, everyone expecting you to cover something. Your life becomes a minefield of expectations. 3. Real risks. Scams, fraud, opportunistic approaches, even crime. The more attention you attract, the more vulnerable you become. The world is full of people ready to exploit any sign of abundance. Meanwhile, invisible millionaires go unnoticed. They don't attract envy, don't face abusive requests, and don't become targets. They live peacefully, move through any environment without standing out, and maintain complete control over their decisions. That's why true financial freedom doesn't mix with flaunting. Showing off buys attention, but sells your peace. Discretion buys invisibility and multiplies your safety. After understanding how showing off attracts problems, it becomes easy to see another essential point. The truly wealthy have nothing to prove. And this mindset changes everything. Most people spend to be seen, to be validated, to be recognized. They buy status because they still carry a deep need for external approval. But those who have truly built wealth, solid, long-term, consistent wealth, have already found recognition within themselves. They don't need others to notice their success, because they already live it daily. Freedom, security, options, time. There's no need to compete, impress, or justify anything. They know noise is for those who need attention. Quiet is for those who have already won. And this silent mindset creates an unbelievable advantage. It eliminates emotional impulses and protects their money. Without the pressure to prove something, they resist ego-driven purchases, ignore temporary trends, and stay fully focused on the long term. While many spend to appear successful, they invest to remain successful. Once you reach this point, wealth is no longer a symbol. It's a state of mind. And that's exactly what separates those who build fortune from those who only play the part. If the mindset of the truly wealthy is built on inner security, then the next question becomes inevitable. How do you train your own mind to adopt this same logic, the logic of invisible wealth? It all starts with small daily choices, because habits shape identity. The first habit is smart frugality. It's not about being cheap, it's about cutting what doesn't matter so you can multiply what does. It's saying no to ego-driven spending and yes to decisions that build your net worth. The second habit is consistency, even when no one is watching. Investing every month, regardless of mood, motivation, or whatever trend is happening. Invisible wealth grows quietly, and consistency is the fertilizer that keeps the process alive. The third habit is long-term thinking. People trapped in the show-off cycle think in weeks. People who build wealth think in decades. That simple shift in time horizon completely changes your decisions, reduces impulses, and makes results far more predictable. And finally, the most powerful habit of all, protecting your attention. The less you compare yourself to others, the more clarity you have about the path you're building. Comparison is the fuel of showing off and the poison of financial freedom. Once you internalize these habits, something remarkable happens. Your mind starts operating in wealth mode long before your bank account reflects it. That's when you begin living like an invisible millionaire, long before you hit your first million. Now that you understand the mindset behind invisible wealth, we need to face one of the most painful truths, because trying to look rich costs far more than money. First, you lose time. Time planning purchases, chasing trends, trying to maintain an image that never lasts. It's constant effort to impress people who, most of the time, aren't even paying attention. Meanwhile, that same time could be used to learn, invest, create opportunities, and build something real. Then you lose discipline. When your energy is focused on feeding your ego, you lose the ability to say no to the unnecessary. Every impulsive purchase weakens your mental strength and reinforces the habit of spending before thinking, the exact opposite of what builds wealth. You also lose peace. Showing off requires maintenance. If you display luxury, you have to keep displaying it. If you project status, you have to keep the act going. That creates anxiety, pressure, and even fear of not keeping up. And worst of all, you lose the chance to build net worth. Every dollar that goes toward image is a dollar that doesn't go toward investments, businesses, and assets that could transform your life long term. In the end, looking rich today steals your opportunity to be truly rich tomorrow. And once you understand that trade-off, everything inside you begins to shift. After everything we've covered, it becomes clear that there's a fork in the financial road for everyone. On one side, the path of looking rich, filled with pressure, expectations, and expenses that drain your energy. On the other, the path of being rich, built with intention, consistency, and discretion. And the turning point happens when you consciously choose which philosophy to follow. The philosophy of silent millionaires doesn't require luck, inheritance, or a high salary. It only requires one thing: the courage to abandon the need to prove anything to the world. Because the moment you stop living for other people's eyes, you finally start living for your own future. That's where everything changes. That's where every expense gains purpose. Every investment gains direction. Every choice begins to reflect the life you want to build, not the image you want to maintain. And once you embrace this philosophy, wealth stops being a distant goal and becomes a lifestyle. A lifestyle that is quiet, solid, and incredibly powerful. The question now is simple. Do you want to impress today or win forever?